Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Deck Tech. Today we're going to explore Un'Goro a little bit further by investigating one of the best hunter decks in the current meta and see why Rexar is smiling with the new expansion. This is a hunter that has been proven to climb to the top ends of Legend. Nick Chipper, a Ukrainian Hearthstone professional player, has been able to pilot this specific mid-range list to the top ends of Ladder. If you have examined how the deck's actually built out, it seems very straightforward in having a few one-mana plays followed by a really good realistic curve. Some of the important cards that you want to be looking for in this deck is how you start off with cards like Alley Cat, Fiery Bat, and Jewel Macaw, and primarily using a power turn 2 to determine how the rest of the deck is going to play. Because you look at Hunter in general, and you look at some of the most powerful cards that we've come to expect, Savannah Highmane, Bittertide Hydra, and even to a certain extent Houndmaster. These cards are very strong and swingy throughout the matchup, but oftentimes the game is really decided by the first 3 turns of the game. So what you really want to be examining is how cards like Trog Beast Rager and, more importantly, the Crackling Razor Maw is able to secure your board. You have a 1-mana play, and then you're using the Adapt Battle Cry to either give it Poisonous, plus Attack, Divine Shield, +1/+1. Even Stealth has its place against certain matchups. And you're able to snowball the board very well, as Hunter is able to do with its hero power. Another card that calls to attention is Golakka Crawler. This card functions very well in Hunter, even better than other classes, primarily because of all the beast synergies that it has. You look at Kill Command, you look at the Scavenging Hyena card as well. These cards synergize greatly off of the fact that beasts die or they're on the board, and Golakka Crawler not only kills the pirates, which seems to be flooding Ladder with Pirate Warrior and also a bunch of other aggressive decks, you're also able to just use it for just straight up beast synergy. In the worst case scenario, it's very similar to a River Crocolisk. Some important things to note about the Hunter deck is that you have to be able to try and preserve the most amount of board, so that way you're left with proactive plays. You don't want to be stuck with having a Houndmaster, for example, and not having any beast. So in the case where you have to make a trade to try to preserve a board, sometimes it's better to push some damage to your opponent's face and try to see if you can use things like Rat Pack, Death Rattle to really swing the board. Not to mention that you also have some really useful utility cards. Grievous Bite is one of my favorite cards for Hunter in the new expansion, primarily because people don't really position against Hunter. They position against Mage, they position against a few other classes, but Hunter is not traditionally one of them. Grievous Bite is going to force them to make sure that they're positioning correctly, and you're able to get 4 damage maximum for 2 mana is extremely efficient. There are a couple pitfalls with this deck, primarily the fact that it doesn't have a lot of card draw outside of things like Jewel Macaw and the Tol'vir Warden. And the Tol'vir Warden in late game scenarios isn't exactly the best draw because you're drawing Alley Cats, but the Jewel Macaw can be pretty clutch. One of the things important to note is that Trog Beast Rager is not a beast and is, along with Houndmaster, the only non-beasts in the deck. So be mindful of this when you're attacking and trying to calculate damage with specific kill command lethals, because it can cost you the game if you're not careful at all. Mid-range Hunter's strengths are maintaining board control. The first thing that it's able to do is, if it gets on the board fast over its opponent, it's able to snowball that lead and really make sure that their opponent can never catch up, and you're able to accelerate that damage. Another thing too is that how strong it is on curve. Being able to play a very clean Savannah Highmane or Bittertide Hydra on 5 and 6 is extraordinarily powerful and often wins you the game if you're even or ahead on the board. Hunter's weaknesses include the fact that it's not really that good at coming back onto the board. There's Unleash the Hounds, which is a comeback mechanic, but outside of that card, if you don't have it, you're stuck removing 1 minion at a time or just trying to play some taunt or minions and hope that your opponent doesn't kill you. One of the most important things to consider is how you're going to mulligan. So for the mulligan phase, we're going to look at primarily the 1-mana plays. I prioritize Alley Cat over everything, primarily because it has the most stats onto the board. Each individual 1/1 token creature counts as a 2/2 total. Versus Jewel Macaw, while it's great to have it as a 1-mana play, it's a little bit weak onto the board, especially if your opponent just kills it off very simply with their hero power, or they have a 1/2 minion on the board themselves. You can also consider keeping a lot of these 2-mana plays if you have a 1-mana minion, primarily because of how it snowballs the board. Things like Scavenging Hyena is excellent with Alley Cat. Things like the Crackling Razor Maw is very good too. And finally, the thing about 3-mana cards is that a lot of times it may seem appealing to keep them. I'm looking at Eaglehorn Bow as being one of the primary culprits of what people mistakenly mulligan for. You really want to keep Eaglehorn Bow only if you feel like you're naturally going to be playing a control style in the matchup, if you have to be removing a bunch of your opponent's threats because they're going to kill you. Hunter generally likes to be proactive, so I highly recommend, if you do have the coin and you do have a 1-mana minion, to keep Animal Companion or Rat Pack as opposed to other cards. So some important combos to remember is how Razor Maw really combos with pretty much everything into your deck. Midrange Hunter is primarily beast-based, so anything that has beast, even if it's a small Unleash the Hounds token, can have poisonous or specific stat boost in order for you to buff up and destroy your opponent's minions or to even kill him. Another combo, and it's a classic one, is Unleash the Hounds and Scavenging Hyena. By playing Hyena and Unleash the Hounds, you're able to trade into a bunch of minions, power up that Hyena, and if it's already been played for a turn, it's able to even kill your opponent in some cases. The last combo I want to talk about is Rat Pack and how it's able to utilize some Adapt or Houndmaster in order to gain attack, even if it's temporary in a lot of cases. Rat Pack, the moment it dies, whatever attack it has, that's how many minions it spawns. So using Houndmaster or Adapt plus Attack will give you even more board control, which helps you win the game. One of the things about this deck too is extremely cheap. It's under 3,000 dust, and a lot of the cards have already existed for a part of a lot of Hunter decks in the history of Hearthstone. So most likely you already have most of this deck completed if you are a casual player for the past year or so. The nice thing is that you can make some substitutions as well. Bittertide Hydra is one of the MVP cards of just punching your opponent. You don't really care about taking damage yourself. 3 damage per minion trade is not that big of a deal, traditionally, because Hunter's the one being the aggressor in most cases. But if you don't have Bittertide Hydra or you're not in love with it, feel free to add a Stranglethorn Tiger to your deck. It's cheaper, and also the stealth might come more in handy if you need to use Kill Command or Houndmaster more effectively for lethal and your opponent has a direct removal spell. That does it for this edition of Deck Tech. We're exploring all the classes for the new expansion of Journey to Un'Goro with Yahoo Esports, so make sure to check out some of the other videos. See you next time, and good luck in the jungle.
Good game.